Bom dia, good morning, Thierry.
Good morning, bom dia, Marco.
Bom dia, good morning to all that are listening to us, or good night or good evening. I don't know where are you, when are you listening this. This is the Innovations for the Future Crowd Circle, the circle that connects all of us that are doing this innovation work in Portugal around next cultures, around Society 4.0. You are very welcome to come to this dialogue. We can speak in English, in Portuguese, or both. We can speak in Portuguese and in English. Please come. This is every Friday from 9:30 to 10:30. And next Friday will be Thierry holding space for this conversation. The Friday after 9 of December will be Gilles holding space for this conversation. My proposal, Thierry, is for us to go for a check-in and after start our conversation. How do you think and feel about that?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have a proposal for the check-in. And my proposal is for us to notice about ourselves in arriving here, and at the same time, bringing what is alive after the last dialogue, the last circle. Because for me, it was a very generative dialogue, and we touch very important issues. And I'm noticed it that I'm arriving that with that alive in me also. And maybe we can bring ourselves to the space and also reflect a little bit about the last circle in our checking. Well, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's
okay,
a good idea.
Let's go. Okay, I'll go first. I'm noticing sadness, the sadness of people are not coming to the circle, and I have this sensation, and I'm talking with a lot of people, and I have this sensation that people are eager to have these spaces of dialogue, and I'm really sad that they are not here, using this space for sharing, for building relations, for supporting them in their adventures. And I'm with that sadness also, and also with the fear, a fear of what is not working. It's the hour, it's the calling. What is not working? Why people are not here? You know, I'm with that fear also in my space. I have a good night's sleep, and I did feasting yesterday, and my body is very alive today, and I'm feeling the flow, the energy in myself. I'm not with so many energy, I'm less in energy, but the movement inside me, it's happening. I feel movement inside me. It's like the energy is flowing. And in the language of regenerative development, the level of energy is low, my vitality is low, but my viability is very well. I'm viable in this moment. The body is really working properly. I'm noticing also a mechanism inside me of blocking my sadness. And I have anger, feel angry because there is so much logistics and things to do in the next weeks. I have 2 trainings ahead, and I'm preparing myself. I'm feeling the fear in my system, and also the anger for make the things happen, and really went well. And it stay with me the last dialogue conversation. You know, I really felt glad about the conversation and how generative was that dialogue and what it came to the surface, to the table. It really touched me, this conversation between us as like a representative of people that born in Portugal and people that didn't born in Portugal. And we are here together talking about that and bringing that to the table and putting light on that issue, that I think it's a huge issue in the Portuguese community, and particularly in this people that are building next culture, that are experimenting with the culture. And I'm feeling very glad to bring that to the table and noticing that. I also really enjoy how the questions appeared in our conversation, like what is really going on in this movement, in Portugal, maybe in the world, but focus in Portugal, what is really going on. When we go below the surface, like these problems of not having money, not having energy, this kind of, I'm alone. When we go to the next level, what is really going on in this moment? And why the children why the youth are on the streets and using their voice and saying, stop, what is really going on? And I stay with that question. And that was a very powerful question. And I noticed the suggestion that you made of us meeting in the beginning of next year to talk, to have more time to talk about this issue, what is really going on below the surface, and what can we do about that? What is our agency, or how that patterns are alive in us, like something around that. It really touched me, that question. Also, I resonate with the second layer of making the question about money and about investment and about finance. And that is a question that is being very alive in the Innovations for the Future for at least the last year. Gilles has been working, holding space for that. Claudia is working with that. Ivan is working with that. Yeah, I think it's a team that bring me anger and sadness, and sometimes some fear of it's not done. It's not there. There is instruments in the modern culture, in the mainstream thing, but we don't have instruments or enough instruments for these hedge workers, that people that are on the edge, experimenting on the edge. I think it's a very, very interesting conversation to have. And I'm really glad that Jill accepted the invitation for, in the 9th of December, came to the space and talk about that. It's very like that in me. And also, I noticed that the local coin, local concurrency issue is very alive. I don't know if you noticed that in the Innovations for the Future crowd events, people put there an event that is happening about the coin June. And okay, and Maria João said, hey guys, here in Idanha and some village around, we are already using June, and we are experimenting with that. And it seems like the issue really came to the table. Like we are touching in something that is not only from us, but is in a way alive in the field. And I made a call for some people to come and join us in this conversation. I'm sad that it was not possible, and I will try again. I will use my anger to make another invitation for another date, because I'm sensing that there is something in the field around this issue, and this connection between local concurrencies and local economies are very, very important. And I'm sitting with that, and I'm glad that we are like touching in this macro perspectives, in these macro subjects that are on the social field, on this social field in Portugal. Yeah, and it's me arriving. Thank you, Thierry. And you, how you arrive?
Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful that you. I'm very grateful for you to have started this series again, and I resonate a lot with what you said, and it made me realize, like last week, I was maybe with my high-end inspiration pushing a little bit forward, and by listening to you, I realized also what happened this week was also kind of a feeling from, oops, it's for me also difficult to move forward. I couldn't really hold the high level of inspiration that I was putting on the table. Um, and also, a couple of times the kind of sadness came up. All these times I I tried to get people into new initiatives, and they said yes, but they didn't show up, or they were busy with something else, which is very human. So sometimes you think, okay, forget about the whole thing. And I think that's one of the core issues, not to forget about the whole thing, and just staying with our truth, what we feel. Okay, this is really important. Um, and if you're just sitting by yourself, then you're sitting by yourself, just having this high vision. And that's what I feel. And personally, like I noticed the last couple of weeks, I have now two families next to me, like with like small houses with little very thin walls. So it doesn't resonate with me. So somehow something has to shift in that. And actually, this afternoon I'm going to look at a house very close to the beach, which is basically it's bizarre. It's the beach where I made a medicine wheel last last couple of months. So maybe I can stay there for 4 or 5 months, because somehow I felt that I had it before. That you need these kind of periods where you can really go deep in yourself also. And that's what I feel is also needed for me. Um, Also just connecting on local currencies and building community. Basically, what I see is that you first have to build the unity, say the community in yourself, and then it's much easier to have this with other people. Otherwise, I had it before, it gets very messy. And I think also, if you look at the big picture, what's really happening in consciousness is also like a huge shift from me to we. And then, this kind of local currency, the foundation of it, I mean, it's just natural. I have something to offer, you have something to offer, and we just exchange. If you need a little system for that, you have a system for that. That's it. And I feel very strongly also, doing a lot of meditation, that's also what we need to do, and also just work through our own fear and anger and depression and whatever. It's not an easy job, but I noticed, for the last 10 years or so, I've been totally focused on that. And there's just only one way. So in a way, it's very simple. The answer is always in me. If I'm angry on somebody or some circumstance, the key to solve it is in me and not in the other person. So that's me. And as I said, just a bit a bit shaky today.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thierry. Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go, please.
I felt already when you shared the first introduction, it seems that there's a refining taking place of what we can do. So I think it will be very good. last week we suggest, okay, like beginning of next year to have some bigger meeting and talk about what's really going on. So see somehow together how we can shape it and how it can also be realistic. That it builds on something, that it's not just okay, get together with people and have a meeting, but that we see a bit like where we want to go. Maybe I can give a suggestion. You mentioned Society 4.0, and it actually touched me because there was in the Netherlands there was a professor strategy management, and he started this group. He actually wrote a book about it, and basically his story he shared was quite simple. He said, he saw some years ago that we were approaching a transition, and he said, historically, there's always top-down kind of effort to get to something different, and make a long story short, it never worked, and a bottom-up, and that can be kind of a revolution, or it can be a more practical way, and I choose for practical way. So he has a whole series of topics. One of them is also the local currencies, and he was kind of the spokesperson, and then a lot of people got interested and inspired. So they started these groups in different places, and I think what helps is that they also had different topics in it to say, okay, we think, okay, these are major themes for building a new society, and practically you see some people, they are more like core players like you and me, and there are people who are more like specialists in a certain field, and I think the people you would invite at first hand would be maybe more like the core players, or like the connectors to others, and maybe also, I'm also kind of a silent guy, so who knows, maybe it also helps. The deep heart, and all these people, I'm interested in a lot of stuff, but I know in the end, I'm an economist, so maybe that's valuable that I stay with that, and I'm not an ecologist, so that's what was one of the realizations I got in 2020 when I first was very interested in that, and say, okay, I don't know anything about that, so I could help to plant some trees, but that's all.
Yeah, when I listen to your suggestion, that I have a yes and some fear around that, because I'm noticing how hard it is to bring people together, and that is an issue. We already tried several times to do. We start with this idea of the gathering of the innovation for the future. It didn't happen. At the beginning, was in the Boomland. And we did something around that. After that came the learning journey to Idanha, not as a substitute, but something that was born from the gathering idea. And during along the time, I'm seeing that it's hard for people to come together in a way, and I also perceive that in this conversation, like when we did the first dialogues, I don't know if it was the COVID or whatever, the people came, and it really happens because we are at home, we are closed at home, and people went, and yeah, the things happen. We had a different energy in that time, and now we don't have that, and at the same time we had this, I don't know, this slow movement that comes from COVID. We are not moving anymore. We are more place-based. And I'm noticing how hard it's difficult for people to come together, and also for people to come. It's like there is something in the air, like this is not working. Like people coming in a circle is not working. It doesn't. Nothing happens. This kind of conversation, and that triggers fear in me. I'm noticing that the fear that came. And Vitor said that he will try, and Peter from Rebuild and Peter from Tamera, they are thinking, I don't know if they are organizing, but I will check with them, a rebuild in Tamera, a special kind of rebuild in Tamera in the spring, in next spring, or in the beginning of spring. I will check with Vitor and Peter to see how it is that. Maybe that could be an opportunity for opening the call. Some of us will go, and maybe others could come, because it's the thing that is happening. Something around this. I have the fear of doing the call alone for people that are all over the place. Maybe it will not work, and maybe we could have both. We could have online and presential, for the ones that it's not possible to travel, to have online, and the ones that can do that, to have a physical sense. Yes, and I think that could be a very important movement, to have making a call and see who comes to start this conversation and to really go deeper. And in the second subject that you touch, is cover areas. Otto has the 11 acupuncture points, like ownership, money, and so on. And also Daniel Hall in the book of the Designing Regenerative Cultures also has a framework about the issues, the themes that we need to work for a next culture thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also have one, like there's 12 sectors.
Yes.
And I think, in the end, you can have these kind of structures, and then you have to see, okay, on which topics do people connect, and
me and Gilles,
maybe we're not into reforming the government structure yet. I mean, then
yes, maybe that's not the point yet.
For instance,
me and Gilles, we have a resourcing session, a design about that issue. I don't know if it's in next week or another, but we have that. We have a resource session designed for that issue, for what is the areas that we need to work for something different to happen. And this kind of conversation, it can also contaminate this conversation here in this circle.
Yeah, I can share the model that I learned, and can just see, okay, what's the most practical in this sense.
Yeah.
Can I reflect on
Go,
what you
go.
I think it's beautiful that you mentioned this kind of talk about meeting in the spring in Tamera, because I think then you start building on something. Then the invitation in January somewhere could be about people saying, okay, we want to have a larger gathering of the visionaries in the end of March or April or whatever, and maybe growing towards something that we see we need a larger community to get things happening. Basically, people from different cultures, backgrounds, top down, bottom up. Because I think also this could be very interesting for people working in corporate sector. I mean, I've seen in the ULab that there are plenty of people in those areas, universities, corporate, government, who think, this is not working. We really need something else.
Yeah. Yes, for me that is a good, this possibility of having online and presential, and also to connect this calling for something that is happening, maybe can help us to come together. This also this bringing the several topics to the table and exploring them. Like in Fundação Terra Agora, we are working with ownership. We talk about money, and there is other issues that need to be covered. Otto has these four guidelines for when you are bringing a new idea to the world. Now, when you are building a new game world or want to evolve your game world, there is this four questions that you need to make for your game world to be Gaian and useful game world for our future, our collective future. And the first question is how your game world is connected with Gaia, how your game world is connected with earth, with soil, with water, with air. What is happening there? When you talk about your game world, what is happening there? And maybe it's hidden, maybe it's conscious, but what is happening? Are you protecting that? Are you damaging? What is the externalities that are there around that issue? And the second question is around generations. How your idea is involving the new generations and the oldest generations. And it's not in the middle for the workers that are in the age of working. How your idea is really an idea for a multi-generational society, involving the news and involving the others. And the third question is around well-being, how your idea is really touching the individual well-being and the collective well-being, how these two dimensions are designed and embedded in your idea. And the last one is about governance. How are your relation with dialogical governance practice, such as Socratic ones or others? What kind of governance are you using? Hierarchies, top-down stuff, bottom-up stuff? What you are doing? How is your governance principles and what you're doing? And I think that four questions are very important for this society 4.0 and next culture things, and could illuminate some of the evolutions that we need to make in our game worlds. There is several game worlds in the innovations for the future that are not working in the governance, in the dialogue and context of governance. People are not used to meet in circles and talk in circles. There are some projects that are doing that, and a lot of them that aren't. There are a lot of projects that are not talking about generations, and youngest generations and old generation. And there is some that are focused in one of them, like the youth or the elders. Having these questions, a lot of them are working with earth, but there is some that are not connected with earth and sustainability and generation and whatever. And for sure, this well-being question is a very important one. I don't know if you are following the interviews that I'm doing with these game world builders in the innovations for the future, but there is a very interesting answers when I make the question, how are you taking care of yourself, of your well-being? And you have very surprising questions because some people are really doing a lot of stuff and taking care of themselves, and others not. And others saying things like, I'm not. I stop when my body really collapses. And this is a very interesting perspective, like seeing that life, it's an integrated thing. It's not a thing that all the thing is apart. And these questions that Otto has really call us for thinking in this systemic and from the whole perspective, from the living component of life, not a machine, but a living system. We are a living system, and we interact with each other as a living system. And then, yeah, this kind of conversation maybe needs to come more to the table for putting new thought maps on the table. What do you think and feel about this?
I think it's very important. Take care of, I mean, why taking care of the world if you don't even take care of yourself? I think that's very, very important. And relating to the like the idea of circle, what already came to mind when you were talking is that there is actually a larger group of people who did the ULab over the last few years in Portugal, and I just remember all of a sudden there's one lady I know from about a decade ago. Then we met in a meeting with Neil Donald Walsh, who's a kind of spiritual teacher, you could say. And later on, she worked for Anderson Consulting, and I think now she works for something else. We didn't get in touch anymore, but I think it would be good to get these people also connected. I actually know there's one lady who's in the core team of the ULab now, who's also living in Lisbon. So I will connect with her and see if we can get something organized. And on this kind of whole culture of circles, maybe you also need to be brave in that. I remember that one of my teachers, he's been CEO of the biggest bank in the Netherlands, and then later on he did different jobs. And at some stage he was asked to convene a new government. So basically there had been elections, and the biggest parties had to come together. And one of the things he did was just having this dialogue, this circle. So one time he had a table. It was not round, but like there were, I think, 3 parties. So there were it was like in a triangle. And the funny thing, what happened is then when they had the following up conversations, they wanted to have this table. So they moved the table to different locations to have the same kind of dialogue format. I think in that sense you just have to trust the process and somehow be a bit rebellious and break open. And maybe at first hand, not as kind of as spiritual people, just have a circle, stand hand in hand, just also feel, okay, what can we do?
Yeah, there is something that pop up when you speak about that. Guys like Gil and Abreu and people that really start the transition town movement in Portugal more than 10 years ago, they have these trainings for initiating people in circles, in open space, in world cafes, in appreciative inquiry, in journalistic work, and what they call interior transition and exterior transition, and all these climate change issues, all that stuff. And yeah, I did one of them, and João Sem Medo in the last 10 years really put that on the table, and we had hundreds of workshops about circle, open space, world cafes, appreciative inquiry, you name it, forum, U-Theory. I have a very beautiful video that we had our first celebration in João Sem Medo using U-Theory in 2011 with Vasco supporting the space, with me and Vasco supporting the space. As far as I know, was the first experience in using U-Theory, and in this context. And we have several, me, Vasco, Paulo Carvalho, Rita Venturini, we are all trained in year theory. We have did the several trainings, and Vasco is also more advanced than us because he has also trainings in social presence, in theater and other things around theory. And as far as we go in our evolution here, we are noticing from the field, and Gilles is also talking about that the people in the local places are asking for the kind of stuff that we did offer 10 years ago, like Circle Way, like Way of Circle, like Open Space, like Dragon Dreaming, this kind of stuff that we did the first trainings and presentations and experience more than 10 years ago. People are starting to ask that in several places around Portugal. And that is a very interesting thing. It's a thing that is new for us. And we forget this kind of stuff. Like at the beginning, we had groups that had workshops and trainings about open space, and that happened in every years, and also for World Cafe, like Helena Marujo and the people connected with the positive psychology all have that World Cafe staff, and they do workshops and trainings about that. And it suddenly, in the last 5 years, it ended. Like it stopped all that. And people are now asking for that. Yeah, Rob of the Way of Counsel, he continued to do the trainings. Rob is living in Algiers. Or no, yes, or in Algiers or near Algiers. I don't know, around that. And he continued to do. He continued to do the trainings in the Way of Circle.
Yeah,
in the Way of Counsel. Sorry.
Yeah, we would love to meet him.
Yeah, and he was the pioneer. He brought that the Way of Counsel to Portugal. I don't know if you know this way of being in circle. It comes from Ojai Foundation in the United States, and it's a way of being in circle that is very traditional. They study how the native peoples use the circle, and they systematize that in several of practice, and they socialize that to all over the world. You have the Way of Counsel network really alive in Portugal and in the world. And Rob Dreaming is one of the people that are doing this work for more than 10 years in Portugal. He do for more that all over the Europe and world, but in Portugal for sure in the last 10 years. I did my training with him in Tenchi. Yeah, he has been in the rebuild, the Gathering of Tribes rebuild that happened in last September in Admira. Yeah, there is something in the air that is like, we are talking about like my interests, my explorations, my experiments, my learning is on this topic of Society 4.0 and what is the inner transformation and evolution that you need for sustaining an external evolution and transformation and this kind of thing, and exploring with that. And what the collective is asking is more around this social process, social technologies for people coming together and discovering stuff together, like we did 10 or 15 years ago in transition towns, in João Sem Medo, in other places. And it seems there is this mismatch between what I'm perceiving right now as my edge, where I am exploring, and where the collective edge is. Like my individual edge is this one, and the collective edge is this one. And I don't know yet how to make this gap useful, how to navigate this gap for really supporting both, in the sense that is supporting my continued exploration to the unknown, and supporting the collectives that are coming now for this kind of technologies or social technologies that we already used. We in João Sem Medo, we had a weekly dialogue, a presential weekly dialogue, a circle. That we did that for 7 years, every week, and every month you have an open space, and several of our celebrations of year celebration was made in open space format. We had 1-2 world cafes happening every month with something, with some issue, with something. And also the Transition Town movement did that a lot. And the guys, Gilles had a very interesting interview about the research center in Faculdade de Ciências that has now 10 years. And Gilles talked about that guys use that kind of stuff like open space, forum, dialogues in research, in the participatory action research. It was the model that they used to do climate change research. And they did that all over the country with people all over for different contexts, like problems with the coast, problems with the forest, problems with the rock, and they use open space and world cafes and put people bringing in conversation. This is on the field. This is already there. In a way, it's not being. Yes, let me finish this. In a way, is not being, how to say that, putting on context, like is there, but it's not being mobilized for the people. It's this kind of stuff. Go.
Yeah, I think that's very beautiful that you say that. I think that's also very much where we are collectively. You know, I think we're very clear that we need a very different culture than what we have had over the last few hundred years. It takes time individually and collectively to get that happening. It's very good news that you have had a lot of experience. I saw the same in the Netherlands and elsewhere. And practically, you know, what happens also with a lot of people, you know, you do that, you get very excited, and then, okay, you also need to earn some money. It doesn't really materialize, and a lot of people, they just drop off. But the good news is we have the experience. It's not kind of something new that we have to try out. If you hold a circle, you just feel confident, and you just sit as a Buddha or a shaman, and you can hold the space. I think that's essential, and it's also very good news that it's now coming out coming back. Like you get requests for it. I also think it was something came up when you were talking before. If you look at the current time, don't expect that everybody jumps on this kind of game. In 2020, I saw an article from one of my spiritual teachers in India, and they asked him, okay, what he is calling it kind of a golden age, what's basically kind of happening right now, a huge shift in consciousness and culture. But he saw also, you know, the Corona crisis. So they asked him, okay, what's going to happen? He said, you know, I think, I mean, I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm not a visionary in the world, but I think if you look at people, you can see 4 different types of people, and that people just really go for the highest path of this. Innovations on every level, which is also includes the spiritual part. And on the lower end, you have people who just who would prefer it to be like we had in 1950 or something like that. So they're more the conservative kind of people, and so I think all we can do is just open our heart and connect with whoever wants to connect. I mean, I see it very practically with my own family. You know, my brother, he's now a financial director at DHL, and you know, it's funny. You know, sometimes you can be lucky to even get a handshake, and he has two brothers, no, not two brothers, two sons, and one of them is very sensitive, and he's you know, I'm also lucky if I get a solid handshake. And 2020, in the middle of the first Corona thing, I was in the Netherlands, and the youngest, my youngest nephew, you know, you were not even allowed to touch people at that stage. He really surprised me. You know, I'm kind of an open book, and he came to me. He gave me a hug. I've never had it before. And if you just be open and be like zero, then whoever wants to connect in this way, I mean, it's with how you connect, but it's also if you like to play that game. And basically what I think what's going to happen the next few years, you know, there will be successful experiments building a new society and stuff that doesn't work. And like one of the teachers I had years ago, a Canadian professor, she had this analogy with the bees. She said, you know, in a bee colony, there are all these also these kind of pioneers. So what's happening when like an area where the beehive is not so many flowers anymore? Some of the bees, they just go and explore new territory, and you know, and at some stage they come back and they're really happy. They found a lot of honey, and then, you know, maybe next day a couple of more go. And there are also bees that just keep humming around the same bushes that are just drying out. And that's, I think, also what will happen in society. Some people are just maybe you could even call it stupid. They just keep doing the old stuff, and some people just move on.
Yeah, thank you. It brought me to a conversation that I have with Vasco, and Vasco said that Daji, the Daji is the spiritual guide of the heartfulness practice, spiritual practice, and that Daji said about this gentleness and subtle intention, like as subtle as it is the intention, more is the impact, because you don't find resistance. If you are gentle and subtle in your intentions, you don't have resistance. It means that the impact it's really big. And that is a very powerful teaching. That is a very powerful teaching. And when you spoke, it connected with this conversation that I had with Vasco a few weeks ago. Yeah. Let's go for a checkout. Yeah, you want to start your checkout?
Yeah, great. Yeah, I feel very enriched. I see kind of baby steps forward that I can make, and also to start shaping kind of an invitation. So well, definitely I'll connect with the I think her name is Maria, the lady who is working now in the ULab team. And I also have a couple of conversations with people in my circle. And yeah, so it's I think we're getting somewhere.
Thank you, Thierry. Yeah, I really enjoyed the reflection. For me, it was important to tap this gap between my edge working, my individual edge working, my individual hedge, and this collective commons hedge. That was very important to me, to notice that, to see this gap, and to have this question: I want to navigate that gap, and what can I do for continuing my individual work and finding the peers and the team for doing that. At the same time, what can I do to support this? Because I know a lot about that. I know the people, I know the experiments. I have a lot of experience that I can put on service of that people. I'm with that question. I feel glad about this reflection, and I stay with that question. It really touch me. And, yeah, the fear is very alive in me, and also a sadness that I didn't notice this gap before. But now it's here, and it's on service. It's really touching. And maybe I have a proposal, Thierry. Maybe you can invite some of these people that you talk in your checkout to come to the circle next Friday and record the conversation for all of us. I'm very interested in that, and for sure I will listen to the recording.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Thierry. Thank you. See you next week.
Yeah, could you connect me with this Peter, the guy from the circles?
The Rob, yes,
Rob,
I can do that. Yeah. Yes, I can do that.
Great.
Thank you. Até já.
Have a lovely week.